Okay, there we are. So, welcome to the Monday Book Club. We're beginning a new project today. It is T.S. Eliot's Four Quartets. And the way we will proceed is we will begin by reading the first quartet in its entirety. And after we have gone through one reading of it, then we will go back and start reading it in pieces and stopping to talk about what we're reading. Like any new project like this is an experiment. And, while confident that it will prove worthwhile, I'm a little nervous about it. This is a pretty deep poem, and probably not for everyone. But here we are, and I'm glad we're here. So let me see if we have. Okay, so we have the reading chat list. Okay, so I am the first reader.
Me?
Actually, Ann Meisner, you were going to read after Tom.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So let me begin with a few quotes at the beginning. The first quote is actually in Greek, which I am not going to read, but I will read the translation. And it says, although logos, knowledge or reason, is common, the many live as if they had a wisdom of their own. So, and then the second quote looks like it's also in Greek.
Mm-hmm.
And these are fragments of, fragments of Heraclides and the fragments of the pre-Socrates, also Heraclides. The second one says, the way up and the way down is one and the same. Okay. Here we go. The first poem is titled Burnt Norton. I'll briefly mention Burnt Norton is an actual place. And if you go to the Facebook page for the Monday Book Club, you'll see that I placed a link to the Google search for Burnt Norton, and it will show you all kinds of photographs and drawings of the church with the rose garden.
Place in Gloucestershire.
In Gloucestershire, okay. And where is Gloucestershire?
Gloucestershire in England.
Okay. And what part of England is that in?
That's a good question to which I don't have the answer.
Okay. I don't have the answer is a good answer as well. Okay, Burnt Norton. Time present and time past are both perhaps present in time future, and time future contained in time past. If all time is eternally present, all time is unredeemable. What might have been is an abstraction, remaining a perpetual possibility only in a world of speculation. Next reader, please.
What might have been and what has been point to one end, which is always present. Footfalls echo in the memory down the passage which we did not take, towards the door we never opened into the rose garden. My words echo thus in your mind. But to what purpose? Disturbing the dust on a bowl of rose leaves, I do not know. Dunno.
Other echoes inhabit the garden, shall we follow? Quick, said the bird, find them, round the corner. Through the first gate, into our first world shall we follow the deception of the thrush? Into our first world, there they were, dignified, invisible, moving without pressure over the dead leaves, in the autumn heat, through the vibrant air, and the bird called in response to the unheard music hidden in the shrubbery, and the unseen eye-beam crossed, but the roses had the look of flowers that are looked at. Joan.
There they were as our guests, accepted and accepting. So we moved, and they in formal pattern, along the empty alley, into the box circle, to look down into the drained pool. Dry the pool, dry concrete, brown-edged, as the pool was filled with water out of sunlight, and the lotus rose quietly, quietly. The surface glittered out of heart of light, and they were behind us, reflected in the pool. Joe?
Then a cloud passed, and the pool was empty. Go, said the bird, for the leaves were full of children, hidden excitedly, containing laughter. Go, 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 said the bird. Humankind cannot bear very much reality. Time past and time future, what might have been and what has been, point to one end, which is always present. And
Garlic and sapphires in the mud clot the bedded axle tree. The trilling wire in the blood sings below invertebrate scars, appeasing long-forgotten wars. The dance along the archery, the circulation of the limb, are figured in the drift of stars. Ascend to summer in the tree. We move above the moving tree, in light upon the figured leaf, and here upon the sodden floor below. The boarhound and the boar pursue their pattern as before, but reconciled among the stars. Tom.
At the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards, at the still point there the dance is, but neither arrest nor movement, and do not call it fixity, for past and future are gathered, neither movement from nor towards, neither ascent nor decline, except for the point, the still point. There would be no dance, and there is only the dance. I can only say there we have been, but I cannot say where, and I cannot say how long, for that is to place it in time. Next.
The inner freedom from the practical desire, the release from action and suffering, release from the inner and the outer compulsion, yet surrounded by a grace of sense, a white light still and moving, airborne without motion, concentration without elimination, both a new world and the old made explicit, understood in the completion of its partial ecstasy, the resolution of its partial horror, yet the enchantment of past and future woven in the weakness of the changing body, protects mankind from heaven and damnation, which flesh cannot endure. Next.
Time past and time future allow but a little consciousness. To be conscious is not to be in time, but only in time can the moment in the rose garden, the moment in the arbor where the rain beat, the moment in the drafty church at Smokefall be remembered, involved in past and future. Only through time, time is conquered. Next, please.
Here is a place of disaffection, time before and time after in a dim light, neither daylight, investing form with lucid stillness, turning shadow into transient beauty, with slow rotation, suggesting permanence, nor darkness to purify the soul, emptying the sensual with deprivation, cleansing affection from the temporal. Done it.
Neither plenitude nor vacancy, only a flicker over the strained, time-ridden faces, distracted from distraction by distraction, filled with fancies and empty of meaning, humid apathy with no concentration, men and bits of paper whirled by the cold wind that blows before and after time, wind in and out of unwholesome lungs, time before and time after, eruption of unhealthy souls into the faded air, the torpid driven on the wind that sweeps the gloomy hills of London, Hampstead and Clerkenwell, Camden and Putney, Highgate, Primrose and Ludgate. Not here the darkness in this twittering world. Joan.
Descend lower. Descend only into the world of perpetual solitude. World, not world, but that which is not world. Internal darkness, deprivation, and destitution of all property. Desiccation of the world of sense, evacuation of the world of fancy, inoperancy of the world of spirit. This is the one way, and the other is the same, not in movement. Joe?
But abstention from movement, while the world moves in appetency on its metalled ways of time past and time future. Anne.
Time and the bell have buried the day. The black cloud carries the sun away. But the sunflower turned to us, will the clematis stray down, bend to us, tendril and spray, clutch and cling, chill. Finger of you be curled down on us, after the kingfisher's wing has answered light to light and is silent. The light is still, at the still point of the turning world. Tom.
Words move, music moves only in time, but that which is only living can only die. Words after speech reach into the silence. Only by the form, the pattern, can words or music reach the stillness, as a Chinese jar still moves perpetually in its stillness, not the stillness of the violin while the note lasts, not that only, but the coexistence, or say that the end precedes the beginning, and the end and the beginning were always there, before the beginning and after the end. Next.
And all is always now. Words strain, crack, and sometimes break under the burden, under the tension, slip, slide, perish, decay with imprecision, will not stay in place, will not stay still. Shrieking voices, scolding, mocking, or merely chattering, always assail them. The word in the desert is most attacked by voices of temptation, the crying shadow in the funeral dance, the loud lament of the disconsolate chimera. Next.
The detail of the pattern is movement, as in the figure of 10 stairs. Desire itself is movement, not in itself desirable. Love is there unmoving, only the cause and end of movement, timeless and undesiring, except in the aspect of time caught in the form of limitation. Next, please.
Being, unbeing, and being. Sudden in a shaft of sunlight, even while the dust moves, there rises the hidden laughter of children in the foliage. Quick now, here, now, always, ridiculous the waste, sad time, stretching before, and after. Woohoo.
Cool. There we go. So that's our first reading of Burnt Norton.
Yeah.
I made a few notes from the computer.
Okay.
Do you want to share something with us?
Yeah,
Joe?
I can. I don't know how much everybody has looked into the computer. First of all, they mentioned that each section is 5 parts. The movement of time in which brief moments of eternity are caught, number 1. Number 2, worldly experience, which leads to dissatisfaction. Number 3, purgation of world, disability. Wish I could read my writing. Dissecting the soul of the love of created things. 4, lyric prayers or affirmation of the need for intercession. And 5, the problem attaining articulate wholeness, which becomes an analog for and merges with the problem of achieving a spiritual help. Now, I don't know if those 5 points apply to all of the
Quartet.
quartets, or if that's just a pattern for Burnt Norton. I think it does pertain to all 4 quartets. It doesn't really help.
No, it's hard to know what it means.
I think he's talking about time.
Yeah.
Great, it's time.
Yeah.
But he seems to be saying that time only exists in the present, not in the future, not in the past.
Fast, yeah.
In the moment. But
The present contains the past.
Yep.
And he says time is unredeemable. So in other words, once we've used it, it's gone.
That's right.
Even though it obviously exists in memory.
So let me reread this first section again. That starts with time present and time past are both perhaps present in time future, and time future contained in time past. If all time is eternally present, all time is unredeemable.
Yeah.
What might have been is an abstraction, remaining a perpetual possibility only in a world of speculation. So that's the end of what I'm going to read there.
See, it strikes. It is very beautiful. The language was gorgeous, and the words saying no, 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 or was no, 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 and very beautiful. But he's effectively writing about something he knows nothing about, because we know nothing about time. We don't know if it even exists. I just mean I'm thinking out loud, lads, stop me. But Aristotle says that time is the measurement of the motion of matter and nothing else. So we measure the motion of the sun going across the sky and we call it a day. And darkness and bright, that's a day, and that's all time is. That it's not anything that exists of itself. And then I'm thinking too of the book at that time. I studied a lot of maths at one stage in my life, and there was a book doing the rounds called a primer of the fourth dimension, in which you could do experiments. It showed a series of experiments with time. And, through a process of theorems, showed that time travel was possible. And that book was around, Primer of the Fourth Dimension. It still exists. And then I am aware that there are at this time as well. What's his name? The physicist. What's the guy that thought of the atomic bomb? E equals mc squared. What's he?
Stephen Hawking.
Einstein.
Einstein postulated that time would bend as you approached the speed of light. And mathematically, he decided that this must be a possibility. That allows us to have Star Trek, which travels at the speed of light, therefore time stands still and cross up galaxies. You see? And you can conduct, and experiments have been conducted with atomic clocks loaded on board jumbo jets, which fly at close to 500 miles an hour and set over kind of flying many times around the Earth type of thing. They might as well be doing circles over a desert. The atomic clocks slow down. They lose a few milliseconds. So we're talking about something we know nothing about, none of us. Therefore, I'm just wondering what the poem is about. It's about just.
Okay.
Joe, going back to the first point you made about the sound of the words, I think that's actually more relevant than meaning. And the little bit of criticism that I read about it over the last couple of days said, don't concern yourself with the meaning. Listen to the music of the words, and I think you put your finger on that.
I think that you're right on it. I think that is our salvation. And I think we should go that way rather than sort of. I don't know what I mean. I don't know where Dante and all the boys sit on this one, but that might be it. I concur absolutely.
He kind of he mentioned the word there, redeemed, and Joe's after saying salvation. So these are all Christian concepts, and he was steeped in Christianity. Eliot, and it was a big thing.
Did he convert from Protestantism, Tom?
He converted. I don't know what he was, but he converted. About 1927 or 28 to I think it was Anglican, bordering on
high Anglican, the highest
British.
Church.
And he was subsequently criticized for his work being too religious.
Like people like Virginia Woolf and who were and that set there in Bloomsbury, and where he lived around Kensington, and that there were they were friends with him, but they couldn't understand his Christianity. In fact, he was going to call the Kensington Quartets at one stage, and because he lived around that area, and during the Blitz and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, he desisted. He was persuaded not to. But
the first few lines, Tom, that he wrote about time, he had written for Murder in the Cathedral. And he decided that they were too poetic to be included in a drama. So they became the beginning of Burnt Norton.
The guy, or the guy that was directing the play or whatever, said he couldn't use these, whatever. It didn't work on the play, so he had them. But I also think, like, it was his visit to Burnt Norton with Emily Hale, the American girl who he had met when he was very, very young in America, and she had come over at that time, and she had some friends living down there and near wherever it was in Gloucester, and they went for a walk one day, and they strolled into this place. It was abandoned, and derelict. And he said a very interesting thing afterwards. People kind of said, "Oh, there was he must have known the history and the kind of the background of the place." And he said, "No, what made it really good was I knew nothing about the place except the name, and that was it." And he said, if anybody went down there, and was trying to relate it to the poem, they said they'd be very disappointed, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything you just said is now time past.
That's right. Like, even, I mean, one of my favorite quotations is, and I mention it sometimes, if I can think of it now, is it begins that novel by L.P. Hartley, The Go-Between, and it says, the past is a foreign country. They do things differently there, you know, which is, I think, is a great opening line, but it is also very true.
Terrific, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, when we started this reading, it's in the past now. Yeah. As Joan said there, yeah. So
you remember the reading of Ulysses last week? Oxen of the Sun, I think. Is that where we were? And they talked about Yates and the Rose and the Rude. And which was Yates and the Rose being the mystical approach to the apprehension of mystery, or mystery of the cross and all that.
Yes.
Except I didn't look it up enough but I know they mentioned Augustine and somebody else.
Yeah, the thorn bush producing the robe.
But we have a lot of Dante in here from my point of view.
Right.
And as a kind of quick summary for those who perhaps have not read that much Dante, when you get to Paradiso, you step out of time. And the final symbol of the prima mobile, which is where the Godhead is the mystical rose.
Yeah.
Where all the saints and the important people are sitting on petals of the rose, and they are basically completely silent. And all of the things which happen in time and in space are below. For those who are in the mystical rose itself, now I'm interpreting here, so if I get something wrong, don't be too harsh with me. For the people who are in the mystical rose, they are beyond time and space, and they're in this timeless non-space. So when I read these lines, time present and time past are both perhaps present in time future, and time future contained in time past. If all time is eternally present, all time is unredeemable. So for me, this comes across very strongly like Dante. You know,
so if time is irredeemable, the thing is, with Dante, like at the brink of death, you could make amends or contact or an apology for your wrongdoing or something.
Yeah, a good confession, a full confession.
Yes. Yeah. So
that
it was time offered you because you had time, it offers you the opportunity for redemption.
Yeah.
And I think the redemption is the actually stepping beyond time.
Yeah.
What happened within the time is really not redeemed, but it doesn't have to be redeemed, because once one steps beyond time and space, there's no need for redemption, because that is the redemption. So anyway, those thoughts are coming through me very strongly, and I don't know what Eliot's relationship was with Dante.
Yeah.
He wrote a book on Dante, Eliot.
Oh.
And he said he was the kind of master. Dante was the master kind of, you know. He was, yeah, he was very.
What if the rose garden is simply a rose garden?
Yeah.
Sometimes a rose garden is a rose garden, you know, and that in Norton there's the remains of a rose garden from Elizabethan times, you know, the brick type of thing.
Right.
And like a rose garden conjures up, going to our idea of following the words, that triggers a very beautiful, quiet place in my head.
Yeah.
Towards the door we never opened into the rose garden. My words echo thus in your mind.
Yeah.
That's the first time we've seen another person, isn't it? Your mind. Who is he talking about?
Is it Emily?
Yeah.
Emily?
Who
was with him, yeah.
Yeah. The ex from his early life. Sorry, Tom, you would give a better description of her.
No, that was it, Joe. Yeah. Yeah.
He had decommissioned his wife at that stage, isn't that right?
No, not really. He wouldn't leave his wife because he was an Anglican, and he
I thought they had broken up, Tom, no?
They broke up later on. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Did they break up, or did she adjourn to the madhouse?
Yeah, that's what I had thought, that she had psychological problems.
Yeah.
What
Is
happened
that
was,
what wife you're talking about?
yeah, Vivian, I think.
Vivian, yeah.
Well, I'd say being married to him and listening to this sort of stuff, no wonder she adjourned to the madhouse.
Escape.
But I don't know when they separated initially, and then she was committed to the asylum, where she stayed for the rest of her life. But
he married Vivienne in 1914.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the shock and horror of his family.
Yeah.
Why?
She was his secretary, wasn't she? Vivian.
I don't think so. I don't know.
No.
Well, she certainly was involved with his writing after the marriage, yes. But I don't think he married a secretary as such. I think the connection was one of they attended dancing together.
His wife Valerie of Curious Cats. She was his secretary.
She was his secretary. Yeah. Yeah. And they used to go to the Chelsea Hotel, wasn't it?
Where all the superstars went.
Yeah. This,
The Chelsea Hotel in New York City?
No. There was one in London of that name.
Okay.
Right.
Don't take me as an authority. I for tin my knowledge of this.
Well, we have a Chelsea Hotel in New York City, and it used to be the same thing. The artists and writers and whatever, but now it's so upscale, you know.
Yeah.
Famous for Leonard Cohen and Janis Joplin.
Exactly.
Leonard Cohen made that one.
That's right.
In fact, he wrote a song about it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. But as I remember it, T.S. Eliot, there was this is a television program seen 15 years ago. The staff at Faber and Gaw, as it was called, arrived into work one morning, and a note from the secretary and T.S. Eliot to say they would not be in today. They were getting married. First clue that anyone in the place had that they had a whole thing going. And not only did they get married, they went away on honeymoon together, you know, without anyone knowing. And she was a schoolgirl at the time he was publishing, and she was reading his poetry as a schoolgirl. And she was good at cricket, and then became his secretary, and eventually his wife, and then his trustee up till the time of her death. So But
He
Valerie,
separated from his first wife in 1933 and
yeah,
married Valerie Fletcher in 1956.
56, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm not
He
sure.
died in 1965, so they didn't have that long together.
No, they didn't. And he was, I grow old, I grow old. You know, those lines in the Wasteland and rolling up the trouser bottoms and that. But she was very, very good for him by all accounts.
Mhm.
Really took good care of him. And
If the, I'm sorry, Joe.
no, I'm just finished up.
I was going to say if these 5 sections that I mentioned, and this is in one, where do we notice the brief moments of eternity? It's the movement of time in which brief moments of eternity are caught.
Right.
Probably the last one.
Well,
The fourth line, if all time is eternally present.
yeah,
The fourth line.
yeah, that's
All
that.
time is unredeemable.
All time is eternally present. Right. But
That-
for the most part, mhm.
That's stating the theory, you see.
Yeah.
And then that's why I went to the Rose Garden. You know, that's a thing we didn't do. The passage down the passage we did not take towards the door we never opened into the Rose Garden. Almost that moment of not opening the door, not going down the passage, is an instant of time caught in eternity. That to my crazy mind fits the bill a bit. Anyway.
And then the pool that is there there was reflection in the pool, and then the pool is empty.
Yeah.
I forget which way it goes.
Cloud passed on
The drained pool, and then maybe time passed is when it was full.
Yeah.
I was thinking back to what Duncan had said about Dante and the description that you gave, Duncan. Isn't that very similar to Catholic beliefs as well in the afterworld, and that there is no such thing as time? There's no such, even though you bring your body with you, it doesn't it doesn't function as a human body because you're spirit.
Yeah.
So time becomes irrelevant in that sense. But the idea of having time to make atonement for your sins and, have your soul in a good state when you're going to heaven is important, but that happens within time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it also explains how, in Catholic terms, I'm just jumping on what you're saying there, that how Christ still exists, as he was back in 28 AD, and therefore when he makes an appearance, it's totally possible because he exists outside time, and presumably the Blessed Virgin Mary that we were discussing as well. Wasn't that this group we were discussing, Blessed Virgin in wherever it was?
Yeah.
And she has been assumed into heaven, and therefore when she appears at Knock, it's completely possible because she exists outside time. And I'm not trying to convert anyone. I'm just trying to say, is that not also tie in what you just said? Sort of agree. But there's so much more here, though, isn't there? It's really go.
Let me just take these 3 sentences right at the beginning. What might have been is an abstraction, remaining a perpetual possibility.
Yeah.
Only in a world of speculation.
And then the last one, it takes what might have been and explains it more, and what has been point to one end, which is always present.
What might have been and what has been point to one end, which is always present.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot make any meaning out of either of those things, but they're very beautiful.
I think we can grasp for the meaning.
Yeah.
Just like when we go, what might have been is an abstraction. I mean, if you asked me to explain that in detail, I would have a lot of trouble explaining that in detail. But as a quick realization, I go, yeah, what might have been is an abstraction.
There's a piece here which is quite interesting. I think I found it in Wikipedia. It says 4 quartets are 4 interlinked meditations.
Right.
With the common theme being man's relationship with time, the universe, and the divine. In describing his understanding of the divine within the poems, Eliot blends his Anglo-Catholicism with mystical, philosophical, and poetic works from both Eastern and Western religious and cultural traditions, with references to the Bhagavad Gita and the pre-Socratics, as well as the Christian mystics John of the Cross and Julian of Norwich.
Right.
Now, I wouldn't be able to pick out those references, but presumably they're in the series of poems.
None of which gave us an answer to the question about what time is. Or we would all know the answer.
What time is it?
What time is it?
Time is moving on.
But what's the book I mentioned about the fourth dimension? That explanation is that we can imagine a one-dimensional world, we can imagine a two-dimensional world, and we live in a three-dimensional world. And they can all be made to pass through one another. I can take a sheet of paper and pass it through a box. That's a one-dimensional world, two-dimensional passing through a three. And we live in a three-dimensional, and the time is the fourth dimension. Mm-hmm. It's the dimension outside us that we can never grasp. And that gives you some explanation. It's a dimension outside us. And we know how the one and the two relate through a series of experiments with the three. And we can assume that to be the case for the three into the four. And we find time behaving like that, as if it is. So that gives you some idea. It says, well, time is a dimension outside us. Mm. And more of an answer than Aristotle and the lads can give us, But I don't know if T.S. Eliot had read that book.
Well,
I think time is misunderstood or not appreciated in life. Your younger years, you think, oh, you have all the time in the world to do this or that, or correct this or that, or explore whatever. But the older you get, the shorter that of the time of life you have. And
time moves faster, I think, huh?
Yeah. But at that point, you wonder, why didn't I appreciate the concept of time when I was younger, to know that it was a commodity that would be spent, and would I spend it in the right, in a way that I would appreciate later on?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is the paradox.
Yeah.
This is the paradox of living in time, which is as long as we think we have lots of time, we actually waste it and don't use it and don't appreciate it at all.
Yeah.
And it's only when we are older, when we have seen ourselves and others deteriorate, get so high, that we actually begin to perceive the time of living. And actually, I don't know how it is for other people, but for me, I have more time now than ever.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
if
do
I
you
if I sit here, I spend a lot of time.
mean?
Yeah, that's it. I spend a lot of time doing nothing.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the reason I spend a lot of time doing nothing is because I actually feel more infinite.
Mhm.
I feel like I have all the time and space I ever need
Mhm.
when I'm not trying to accomplish anything.
But there isn't the same need to accomplish anything either.
Right. And that me, I don't mind giving up at all.
Mhm.
As a
You
matter of
say,
fact, I tend to look at that me and say, well, what a silly fellow that guy was, running around doing this, that, and the other, and trying to accomplish all these things when he could have just been sitting quietly.
Mhm.
I relate to a lot of that.
Yeah, me too.
it just says at the end there, the last two lines we read, ridiculous, the waste, sad time, stretching before and after. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So he was conscious of the waste.
Let's see. Tell me where are we on that?
Just the last two lines of the whole reading, Duncan. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
this
right,
whole
down at the very end. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
And how we fill our time is a whole big discussion into itself. I know that I like you, Duncan. I waste an awful lot of time, and part of that has to do with energy loss. But there's also a not needing to do a lot of things that you wanted to do in the past.
Yeah.
That unless you have a plan for the day, I mean, or if you miss something, if you miss a concert, if you miss a movie, if you know miss doing something, you don't care. It doesn't have the same meaning that it used to.
Yeah, I usually do things because other people want to do them.
Right, exactly.
And to a greater and greater extent, I am quite content
Mm-hmm.
to sit or lie
Mm-hmm.
and do nothing but perceive.
Mhm.
And watch the news.
Not
My
even watch.
nieces are 16 and 17, and if they miss a gig, if they have to go somewhere the next day, and the whole thought of missing this important gig by someone famous would, they'd be driven demented.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now they're going, but they'll be here next year. What's the problem?
Yes, but
that's young.
when you're young, you think these things are necessary
Important.
and important, and that you're actually going to learn something secret or have some secret experience. And at least for me, as I get older, I realize the only secret is that you don't have to do anything. And admittedly, I have some strong um, Buddhist tendencies, but to sit and perceive is the highest accomplishment. Because it's actually when I gave up feeling like I had to get things done, then sitting and perceiving was like incredibly fulfilling.
Well, you also feel like you have more time, that if it doesn't get done today, it can be done tomorrow. And that's kind of at odds with the fact that you really have less time. But I know things that if I'm just not getting to them, it doesn't bother me. I'll just do that another time.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the way I feel. I mean, I'm from an outsider's point of view, they would think that I put stuff off always.
Mm-hmm.
I never get around to doing anything.
Yeah. I'm not that bad.
I'm almost that bad. Okay, I'm going to read a little bit more if you don't mind. What might have been and what has been point to one end, which is always present.
It's present.
Footfalls echo in the memory, down the passage which we did not take. Towards the door we never opened, into the rose garden. My words echo thus in my mind.
Your mind.
Oh, in your mind. My words echo thus in your mind. That's curious. Why would he say, huh? I actually have to think about why he would use your instead of my.
As he's talking to you.
I think it's back to Emily Hale again.
Mhm.
Who, yeah.
But to what purpose? I do not know.
Well, because they didn't proceed together. They did not take the passage to the door into the rose garden. So it's like an echo of words in your mind, reminding you of a negative experience. It didn't happen. It was negated. I think that's really interesting.
It is.
It's like the road not taken by,
Yeah.
by Frost. It's the road not taken. But you can imagine what the road might have been like, but you didn't take that direction.
A couple of lines on, other echoes inhabit the garden. Had we gone into the garden, these are but now other echoes inhabit the garden that we don't know about it, presumably because we can go in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, other echoes inhabit the garden. Shall we follow? Quick, said the bird. Find them, find them.
Yeah. Who's the bird? You know, what does that represent? Is this the Garden of Eden in a sense? And is the bird the serpent? You know, I'm just thinking
yeah.
I mean, there's no end to this kind of thought process you can have.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Through the first gate into our first world. Oh, the deception of the thrush. Shall we follow the deceiver? He's a deceiver. The bird is a deceiver.
And is that some mystical reference or some religious reference from, has the thrush been...
someone Google it.
I'll try.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of... stay on the level pegging.
Mm-hmm.
The thrush.
Into our first world, there they were, dignified, invisible. moving without pressure over the dead leaves. In the autumn heat, through the vibrant air. And the bird called in response to the unheard music hidden in the shrubbery.
According to Google, the thrush symbolizes love, passion, and fidelity.
Whoa.
I don't know if that's a way to go.
It symbolizes what now?
Love,
Passion, and fidelity.
I'm presuming that's
long passion.
Yeah, it symbolizes hope and freedom in other uses. Only a sign of hope, apparently.
I think I would be interested in knowing whether Eliot ever had anything to say about that.
Yeah.
I think it's so amazing that you take some lines like this that are so packed and that he's made them so beautiful.
Yeah.
That he can express all these different ideas in a way that is really, if you just read it and just listened to it, it would be almost enough.
Yeah, absolutely, John, because the imagery that passes through my mind when we were reading it was a beautiful garden scene. And it, if I could describe my garden like that, it would be great.
Yes. You'd be famous.
Yeah.
We'd be reading you.
Yeah, you guys be talking about me.
Wonder what he was thinking.
For you and when it's nothing.
But isn't that the enticement of, let's say, like first love or first experiences on your own outside of your parental home, let's say? Yeah.
It's almost a Garden of Eden, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he went down the passage. He didn't open the door. Could that be that he didn't have a loving relationship with Emily? Like he didn't marry her?
Yes, he didn't. He didn't.
He didn't take the chance.
He didn't fulfill the relationship, although it was. Yeah. It was very. I suppose I don't want to say faithful, but it was. It survived a long time. It didn't. Tom into.
Yeah, it went on and on, I mean, they were in love, and the initial thing was that Vivian, and she actually died in 1947, I think. So he was still writing and communicating with Emily.
Yeah, and
that would have indicated when he was released that he would make moves to marry Emily. But what happened was the reverse happened. The effect of Vivian dying had a shock to him, that he went off marriage, and he didn't follow up on the marriage thing, but they continued right on for another, I don't know how many years, communicating, and he met her in America, but it had changed a little because I think she wanted to marry him, but and after Vivian died, I think she expected that, but it didn't happen. And so and on until he eventually did marry Valerie and in 56, 57. And that's when he finally kind of broke with Emily. So it went on a long, long time, yeah.
I don't think Emily ever married, did she?
No, she didn't.
I think there was a book a year or two ago called Emily. I read a review of it.
Yeah.
And it kind of seemed to be turning up more evidence of the toing and froing in the relationship.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Don't know that. Yeah, but there was a lot of that, and the expectation being held
that she had an expectation that once the track
Yeah,
appeared, it would be a straight
yeah,
run.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there was another woman involved as well, Mary Trevelyan, who was working when, during the Blitz, she was over something like a student kind of thing. And she kind of fell in love with Eliot, and she actually proposed to him, but he didn't take up on that either. And she was involved. When I say involved, just on meeting him and seeing him and doing different things and that, But again, that went right away.
During the relationship, Eliot wrote 1,131 letters to Emily.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they've been deposited in the Princeton University Library back in 1956.
Yeah.
She had specified that the letters should not be opened or released rather to the public for 50 years after both their deaths.
That's right. This is what this book was about. That lady who wrote that book got access to those letters. And the problem is that they've only one side. They don't have the correspondence in his papers because he asked Valerie to destroy them.
Okay.
So our hero is, he's somewhat lesser.
All we have is the letters from the woman.
The letters to her.
Letters to her.
Yeah, so we have his, but not hers. And
so he must have been the one who destroyed them, right?
Oh,
there
yeah.
she is.
There she is.
Very.
Good-looking lady.
Very sophisticated literary look to the lady, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got thrush, Deception of the Thrush in Oneida Nation, Indian Nation folklore. So I don't know if T.S. Eliot was reading Indian folklore.
Yeah,
but anyway, the thrush, the thrush cheats and steals a spirit world song, which makes his song much better than anybody else's. And hides in shame when he realizes that all the other birds are annoyed.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's a Midwesterner, isn't he? So he might have been even, I don't know where that tribe lived, but he might have had some knowledge of that idea. Yeah. Very good. The deception of the thrush. Yeah.
So using deception means lead someone away from something. So into our first world, shall we follow the deception of the thrush? So I'm just spinning off the top of my head. So is the thrush leading the listener away from their nest to protect the young? What is the thrush? How is the thrush? It doesn't have to be an answer to the question, but how is the thrush trying to deceive?
If the thrush has stolen a mystical song from the spirit world, so if you go down further, the bird called in response to the unheard music hidden in the shrubbery.
Yeah. For the leaves were thrushes, children. Go, 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 said the bird. Humankind cannot bear very much reality. I think
that I can feel like I can interpret. And I think that is very part and partial with the line of distraction, using distraction to be distracted. We'll get there, but it's that thing there that and this is certainly true in contemplative practices and in meditative practices, that the major challenge for the practitioners is they can't stay with it,
Mm-hmm.
that they have to invent distractions
Mm-hmm.
because the intensity of feeling, of pure observation, is so overwhelming.
Right. And Duncan, is that the idea that you focus on your breath? Would that be an intentional distraction to keep you? Is that the type of meditation?
That would be called a benevolent distraction.
Yeah, but that would be.
You set up a distraction to pay attention to your breath, to keep you from wandering off into fantasies
The
of
price of milk, take a stand. Yeah.
Other people are getting lots of money and all that. So you concentrate on the breath. But the ideal in the end is that you forget the breath eventually also, and you're just simply in direct awareness.
It's quite a discipline, isn't it, to get into that level of meditation?
Yeah, well, you can see, I mean, what are we if we are not a society or a civilization of distractions?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
The movies, the books, the television programs,
Mm-hmm.
Let's go eat at this fancy restaurant. Let's go try this new beer. We're right there trying to fill up time with distraction after distraction. And I think, basically to avoid the intensity of pure awareness.
Yeah.
Well, it's a double-edged kind of thing too, though, because so many things that you might consider distractions are enrichments to our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Reading, film, family, nature, walking, all those activities
Mm-hmm.
are enrichments.
They certainly can be if they're not compulsive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that used to be the argument we've got at school on the nature of advertising, and you don't hear it anymore. That informative advertising was a positive item, but persuasive advertising was very bad for society. And I notice now as I listen, most advertisements are persuasive. They say, have you got Wizzo? You are missing out if you don't have Wizzo. Buy Wizzo now. Wizzo.
Mm-hmm.
Wizzo. And that's not informative. That was just. Yeah. And then everyone was running around and said, you get Wizzo, Donna? Duncan, if you got and it amplifies the message. The whole world with internet and social media is, being getting persuasive distraction. And we arrive at what Duncan has just described.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we are so used to it that we welcome it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally the attitude is if we're not doing something, we're doing nothing, and that's bad.
Yeah, or we're missing out on something. Yeah.
Don't turn on your phone as soon as you get out of bed. If you don't check your phone, you can't wait till you go downstairs to turn on your radio. You have to turn on now. And you hear something that you've absolutely no control over that upsets you or pleases you.
I think part of what's going on here in Burnt Norton, and perhaps someone can tell me if I'm off base or not, but that Burnt Norton is a place that is a new experience.
Okay.
It's a manor house, as I mentioned there. Sorry, Duncan. It's a manor house in Gloucester, and it's abandoned.
It's banned.
It's abandoned.
Oh, abandoned.
Okay,
Eliot
so it's a
and
ruin.
Emily visited there.
Yeah.
Where would the name of the place come from, do you think?
It was called Norton and it got burnt down and it was called
Oh,
That's what I
Oh, it was Norton, in other
Okay.
words. Hmm.
Yeah. I think that was
oh,
the name.
And
Man
apparently the
committed
four quartets are also in parallel with the four elements: air, fire, earth, and water.
oh,
Okay, so fire is the first one.
Fire is the first one, yeah.
first one.
oh.
I think,
Yeah.
And apparently he also equates it to the seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Which is
So
this
there's all sorts of levels in this.
spring, probably. Yeah.
This is spring, yeah. I hope that it will all pull together when we get to the end of the final poem. Which apparently does pull all the threads together from the previous three poems.
Right.
This little gidding.
So we have to get to know Eliot as well, don't we?
Mm.
To kind of
I
like
think so.
understand it and see what was going on at the time.
yeah.
Seamus Heaney said about Little Gidding, a modern dream vision shimmering with the promise of revelation, concerned to some extent with strictly literary matters, but ultimately involved with the universal sorrows and penalties of living and aging. So I think, Anne, you're on the ball there. Oops.
Yeah, I need to go and look again and find out when it was that he went to Morocco for his lungs.
I think it was around, I think there was an earthquake there while they were there.
Oh, that was Agadir in 60.
Yeah.
And when was it, Joe?
1960, 61, I think, that kind of Agadir.
That late. Okay.
Let's see now. That was very early on.
I really like this line, for the roses had the look of flowers that are looked at.
It's lovely,
Yes.
yeah. There's so many lovely lines in it, like, you know, yeah.
There they were as our guest, accepted and accepting, so we moved, and they in a formal pattern.
So I'm looking at some images of burnt Norton. It might have been burnt before they moved in. And they,
Who is the they you're referring to?
well, is it with Emily or who?
No, they just visited for a day when they were around that
Oh.
area. It was
Okay.
it was burnt in 1741, and the owner was burnt in it also, Sir William Keyt.
So it had been sitting there for hundreds of years in that burned, ruined state?
No, it was rebuilt, you know, within a reasonable time, but they added the burnt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, Morocco was 1960.
Okay.
And it was Agadir. The dogs of Agadir howled in unison, and the rats were driven up on the streets. A column of fire shot into the sky, the earthquake unleashed, blah, blah.
Well, he was there.
He was there.
In 1960, 61. He was there 10 years before I was.
Oh. Probably all rebuilt by the time you were there. Which is kind of the theme for tonight.
I was in a little tiny, as a matter of fact, I was going to Agadir.
If the thrush is deceptive, sorry, am I on? If the thrush is deceptive And the bird is saying, go, 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 humankind cannot bear very much reality. And the leaves were full of children. Does he feel that the thrush or some force, he didn't, the road not taken, that the thrush deceived him by saying, you're not going to be able to handle this sort of reality, so go.
Yeah.
You know the way you sometimes put the blame on someone else.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So his life, his road not taken was marrying Emily and having children. The leaves were full of children.
Ah, yes.
Ah,
Mhm.
And
Right.
so he's been deceived by the thrush, who tells him that, well, humankind cannot bear very much reality. I don't know. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, but that goes back. Duncan was making the point about the thrush uses that song to lure people, to bring people away from its children. You know, the hunting creatures go after the song, and at another level, those children are the thrush's children in among the leaves, and you know, as well. But I think you're right about the Emily thing.
Well, let me be wildly speculative and say that in this particular case, this is the spirit thrush that is leading the seeker away from the spiritual treasure,
Right.
as a way of ultimately teaching the seeker that they are being distracted by distraction.
Right.
You know, I mean, okay, so this is really kind of crazy. So let's take the story Pinocchio. You know, so we had the story Pinocchio, and we have, what is it, the fox and whatever other trickster figure there is that is convincing to Pinocchio to follow them, that they're going to lead him on the road to happiness, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And so Pinocchio goes off on that. Of course, he gets into trouble because he's taken the wrong path, but ultimately he discovers his problem and you know, gets back on the right path. So I don't know. I mean, the thrush could go in all kinds of different directions, but I think it is related to that voice that says, down the passage which we did not take, towards the door we never opened.
mhm.
Maybe Eliot is the bird. I mean, this is an introductory piece. I mean, the poet is often depicted as the bird, you know, the beautiful words, the song of the poet. And all we have here is a song, really. That's what we said at the start, that the words are so beautiful in themselves. we don't understand. And as well as that, a sort of message that the past is the past, and Emily and Eliot are, their reality is the past.
Mm.
I think the reality is that when we look at the present, that we're actually looking at past. That rather than perceiving the present,
Yeah, it's impossible to perceive.
with only awareness. I mean, going once again, this is what meditation and contemplation is about. It is quieting the mind in order to perceive directly.
Yeah.
And that once words start flowing in, basically words are descriptions of what we've experienced in the past.
Yes.
So as long as we have words going through our heads, we are unable to see the present.
Yeah.
That's the theory, and my brief experience seems to
Say
bear
again.
that out.
Say that last again, Duncan. Sorry, only for me, maybe you faded.
You have to speak up, Joe. I can't hear you.
You faded away there a little on me. Anyway, I missed the end of what you said.
Oh, that as long as we're thinking in words, that words are based upon our past experiences.
Okay.
And that the whole idea of meditation and contemplation, when you get to the point to where your words drop away, is then we are directly receiving, we are directly perceiving.
Right.
And there's no interference from the past, which is we've already judged what's happened there, and there's no interference from some perceived future.
Right. So is that the idea of we are in the moment?
Yeah, you could say, roughly speaking, that's
So,
the idea of being in the moment.
Yeah. Mm.
So your microphone, maybe my microphone turned down a lot also, Joe, but your microphone is very low right now.
Okay, how is it now? Any better?
A little better, but it's still
not
pretty
right.
low. Let me turn mine up. I think I've got mine up as far as it goes. Anyway, I'll just listen carefully. So here, I'll tell you a story, favorite story. Hopefully it has something to do with Eliot. I think it does. So in Chinese philosophy, there's a beautiful little book called Rooted in Spirit. And the idea of rooted in spirit is that when we sit down to pursue awareness, that all we're really trying to do is create a quiet spot within the heart for the spirit birds to come and nest in the heart. And that if the heart is calm and the birds nest in the heart, then they talk to us, not with words, but they talk to us, they communicate with us. But when we experience a strong emotion, whether it be anger or fear or joy, that the birds get agitated and they fly away. I need someone to say something at this point to make sure that I'm still connected.
The time has passed.
Oh, time has passed. Okay, you're right. It is 2:36. Well, my goodness, the time flew by very quickly, at least for me. I would assume that the best thing for us to do is for us to, do our own contemplations and studies between now and next Monday, and to continue our discussion on Burnt Norton, and perhaps go on and do the first reading of the second quartet during the time that we have.
Yeah.
Very good.
Perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. You've got me going here.
Okay, Ann Meisner. Good to see you, Ann Meisner. Come
Thank
back
you.
and join us again.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Uncle.
Bye,
See you
everybody.
next-
Everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.